Hello and welcome to the Pages to Pixels podcast. I'm Rohan,
And I'm Keerthana.
and every week we break down and analyze a new movie. This week we're talking about Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
The latest movie from the Planet of the Apes franchise. Here's the IMDb logline for it. Many years after the reign of Caesar, a young ape goes on a journey that will lead him to question everything he's been taught about the past and make choices that will define a future for the apes and humans alike. That's a pretty solid logline, I would say.
Yeah,
It's also very accurate to the movie.
yeah. And before we actually get into the specifics of this movie, I want to talk a little bit about the franchise as a whole. Also, just to give our listeners context with how much we've actually watched of the franchise. Why don't you start? Which ones you've watched?
I've only watched, I think, the first movie of the new versions of it.
So that's Rise.
Yeah, that's Rise. And the thing is, so when I'm going to talk about this movie, it's going to be very, it's going to be very specific to this movie. I'm not going to be comparing it to anything else in the series.
So I've seen 4 of the movies, not including Kingdom. Kingdom would be the 5th. The ones that I actually I have seen the original Planet of the Apes, which came out in 1968.
Ooh.
And yeah, this is actually one of the oldest kind of sci-fi franchises. This predates Star Wars by almost 10 years. And basically it's about a group of astronauts who crash land on a planet where there's entirely ruled by apes, and they talk and have fully functioning societies as though humans would. And then at the end, sorry, spoilers for a movie that came out in the 60s.
I feel like I might have watched this one.
Oh, really?
Wait, is this the one where we realize at the end that it's Earth?
Yep.
Oh, I've watched that. Okay,
so you've seen that one also.
Yep.
And yeah, that's the reveal that, they didn't travel to a different planet. They traveled into the future, and they're in Earth. And yeah, I thought that's a great sci-fi movie. There's not really any action in it, but it asks a lot of questions, and I feel like that's when sci-fi is kind of at its best. And then you mentioned Rise, which is kind of the new prequel movies, telling the story of Caesar, which I believe he's brought up in one of the other Apes movies. There, they mentioned Caesar is the one who was the first kind of smart ape.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, that one definitely has more entertainment and more action in it.
It also has Tom Felton in it, which is a good thing to have.
Yeah, but it still brings up the good ideas and things to think about. And then 2014, I feel like this franchise takes a big leap with Dawn. This is when Matt Reeves enters, and he elevates it completely with Dawn and War, which, in my opinion, they're some of the best franchise movies ever made. Not just of this franchise, but in any of the big budget kind of temple style franchises. Dawn and War are in that tier of just it's in the top tier. So now let's go to Kingdom.
Well, I mean, it's very clear that you liked those 2 movies specifically. For a little more context, I think as we were preparing for this episode, through the week, Rowan's been walking into my office, showing me either clips from the movies or sending me memes from the movies or bothering me to watch them.
Yeah.
And I will soon.
Oh yeah, big resurgence in the memes. I feel like I don't know. I feel like they weren't there for whatever reason in 2014 and 2017. Maybe it's just more people on Twitter now than before, and people realizing that Twitter is a great place to shitpost and put memes as opposed to just talk. But that is the biggest thing I'm happy about. This new movie has led a resurgence to people watching the other ones and then also posting all the memes.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's creating a cultural revolution. That being said, let's jump into the movie. What did you think of it overall?
I think it was pretty good. Especially when you kind of look at it in the eyes of this is a blockbuster action movie. I do think it falls way short of the Caesar trilogy. I mentioned Dawn and War; those are easily my 2 favorites. I was not expecting it to be as good as Dawn or War, but I was like, just give me something on level of Rise, which I also love, by the way. In my opinion, I think this falls pretty sure of that also.
Right. I agree. I thought it was a fun watch for the most part. I will say that the first like 40-45 minutes felt like a lot more engaging and heartfelt and gut-wrenching than the rest of the movie. I feel like at the 45 to 50-minute mark is kind of where it just kind of dropped in just story and quality.
Yeah.
I will say that the CGI was pretty solid though. Like I was very engaged in the world.
It was, and it was great CGI. Especially, it's funny because I'm going to compare it to Godzilla Kong.
Right.
Because they also have a bunch of apes or gorillas or whatever. It is, and that movie actually has some pretty good CGI. I think this one was better.
It also definitely like stylistically it felt a lot more like a director's movie than a writer or an actor's movie. A lot of attention was paid to like how like a shot was constructed and like who was appearing in frame and all that, which was pretty cool. I enjoyed it. The story itself I feel like was patchy at best.
Yeah, I agree. I do want to, again, it's hard for me not to talk about Dawn and War because they are kind of the ones. They are the ones that came right before this. But we're talking about visual effects. I think those movies still have better visual effects. I rewatched them recently, and they just look so much better. And Dawn came out in 2014. War came out in 2017.
Right.
This is 10 and 7 years old, and it's still looking better than what we have in 2024. I think cinematography wise also, and stylistically, it's like, yes, this movie does have a specific style. It's Westball style, but I preferred the Matt Reeves style so much more because I feel like the style elevated the substance.
It usually does when there is substance. The story was fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
Ish. Well, see, that's the thing. I think, again, until the 40-50 minute mark, it was very straightforward, where basically our main character, Noah, his tribe gets attacked by another set of apes, and he goes in search of them. Like, that's his mission. That's his Act 2 goal, basically, is to go and find them. But midway through that journey, he meets a human. And I feel like that's when things started.
Yeah. Well, he meets another ape first.
That was a very heartfelt part of the story. I thought it was very touching. That whole interaction.
He was probably my favorite character in the entire movie.
Yeah, and spoiler alert, they killed him.
Yeah.
Which was, what the hell? I mean, he was nice and funny and yeah, well, they killed him. Anyway, but basically he meets a human, and now she joins him on his journey until they are captured by the group of apes that attacked his tribe.
Yep.
And then we find out that this human can talk, which is significant information because I'm given to understand that in this franchise, the humans were attacked by a virus that caused them to lose the ability to speak.
Yes, and that's established in War. So what happens is in Rise they create the Alzheimer's medicine. And then they established in Dawn that it spread and ended up killing humans, but not all of them. Some of them were immune. But then in War, they established that even though humans are not necessarily dying, many of them are losing the ability to speak.
Got it. So I'm guessing that the human character in this is a big anomaly, and like she's supposed to be the standout amongst the humans.
I think that's what she's supposed to be.
At least that's how she's built up.
Yes.
When they first meet each other.
The issue is that, again, we're going full spoilers here. At the very end, there's a whole underground society with all these satellites where people are openly speaking and are able to work technology that shouldn't be working.
Interestingly enough, I went to watch this movie, and before I entered the theater, some people were discussing the movie, and two teenagers in front of me called it. They said that the humans are going to be more developed than the apes expect them to be. And at that time, that meant nothing to me. But now I see what they mean. So yeah, I mean, I guess it was a little more predictable than the creators would have hoped for.
Yeah. That whole ending felt very odd to me.
Yeah, for a little more context, basically, the entire third act, pretty much of the entire film, happens in this like ape human settlement. Well, I guess it's an ape settlement in, I don't know, like near a dam,
Yeah.
and the dam
I
has a
want to say
vault
it's
of sorts.
yeah. I want to say it's somewhere in LA because we see LAX
We do,
earlier,
yeah.
so it can't be that far.
Yeah, let's go find it. No, so but basically what happens is there's this ape settlement by the ocean, and there's also a dam, and it's basically this space that they use holds
Yeah.
a vault, which is supposed to have weaponry, and that's what the apes want. They want to be able to open the vault and get to the weaponry, and they're unable to achieve that without human intelligence, basically.
Yeah. But here's my issue with Proximus, and that's the villain of the movie. His whole plan, because well, they imply that there's weapons in there, but he's also not 100% sure.
Right. It's yeah.
But he really desperately wants to get into this vault for something that may or may not be there.
Yeah. So what is in the vault is the MacGuffin of the movie.
Which is not established until we actually find
Mm-hmm.
it.
And also, just for a little more context, there, a MacGuffin is basically like the object that everybody desires in the movie that
Yep.
only the characters care about. The audience doesn't. It
Yep.
would be the Sorcerer's Stone in Harry Potter, basically.
It's whatever they're looking for.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so basically, like Rohan said, it's not established until way later on, and so it's very hard to be on board with Proximus's motivation when we kind of don't know like what
But
it's
also
about.
he doesn't, so the MacGuffin ends up being a hard disk which can be used to turn on the satellites at the very end. But he doesn't want that hard disk.
Yeah, so yeah,
It's May, I think that's the name of the human.
yeah.
She's the one who wants it.
Yeah, it's a little I will say that the last like 40-ish minutes become like this confused mess.
Yeah.
Where essentially both of them want to get into the vault, both of them being Proximus and May and Noah on one side. But they want to go in for different reasons, and we're never told why it would be dangerous for Proximus to access what's inside the vault.
Yep.
We're also never told why it would be dangerous for May to access what's inside the vault, or why it's important for her to access what's inside the vault.
I mean, she kind of mentions there's a book in there that'll teach humans to speak.
Yeah, but isn't that just a lie?
Yeah, and it probably is, and it's even if you don't look at it as a lie, it ends up just being a hard drive that turns on a bunch of satellites. I don't know.
So I guess the speaking was a metaphor.
Maybe, yeah. So
I guess
they
she
can
meant
communicate
communicate.
to others.
Yeah.
Huh.
That took a lot for me to put together.
Yeah. Well, it should be. I think it's on the movie to be a little bit more clear because I think that was the whole thing. What do any of these characters want? I kind of get what Noah wants. He wants to save his tribe.
Right. That stays like fairly consistent throughout the film.
Yep, but Proximus, what does he want? What is his goal? I know he wants to get in the vault, but why does he want to get in the vault? And after that, if his goal is to get weaponry, for what?
Yeah, because he already kind of like owns most of.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he already has a kingdom, basically.
Yeah, and does he feel threatened? It doesn't feel like he feels threatened by anyone.
And see, that I think brings up like one of my other big problems with the film, which is that I actually, like Proximus was a bad person, like he hit other gorillas or whatever, but he kind of when he explains to May what he wants, he talks about how like he wants to learn about evolution. He wants to learn the things that humans used to know. Like he wants to just like work towards the betterment of his tribe, which is not a bad like thing to want for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a very fair, like natural goal for anyone to have. So it was very hard for me to root against him actively, if I'm being honest.
Well, I mean, I think the best villains are the ones where you should understand. And hell, just in this franchise, we have the villain of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was Koba, where Koba wanted to. He wanted to launch basically a war against the humans and eradicate them. Why? Because his entire life he was experimented on and tortured, and now he is seeing these humans with guns, a lot of guns, and he's like, they are gonna attack us if we don't attack them first. So
Seems fair.
so he's
Yeah.
all he's saying. So he's saying, yes, I am committing violence, but I'm protecting my kind.
Right. So it's more defense than offense.
That's how he sees it. Now
Right.
the audience watches that, and we know he's wrong because Caesar is about, hey, we can live side by side with them.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the thing, we don't understand any of Proximus' motivations, and even him wanting to learn about evolution, it just feels so abstract.
Yeah, it was such a throwaway line.
Yeah.
Like it's if we like literally if we like
I
remove
forgot that line happened until you reminded me just now.
Exactly. So I feel like if we just remove that from the scene, the movie would stay the same.
Yep.
That being said, I think that in terms of the choreography, I thought when I say
The action was
choreography, I
cool.
mean like how the whole thing was set out. The action scenes were really, really well made, I thought.
Yeah, they were great.
Especially on the bridge.
Yeah.
It was because they did the Hitchcock thing of like showing the bomb first.
Yeah.
Where we see them cross a bridge and we see like the enemy apes under the bridge first.
Yep.
So now we have information that our characters don't, and you're on the edge of your seat. That I thought was a very well choreographed scene, and then of course that's where what's his name?
He's the Maurice of this movie.
Yeah,
but I don't remember his name.
Yeah, that's where he dies. So
Yeah.
that was a very effective scene, I thought.
Yeah. I will say, like, say what you will about Wes Ball, he can craft some pretty good action scenes. I was not a fan of the Maze Runner movies, though from what I heard, the source material is also not the best. That said, the action scenes of those movies work.
Yeah. I just wish that that much time was spent in building a story that would benefit from such well-written action scenes.
Yeah, I think also this movie relies a little too much on Easter eggs. Oh, hey, look, that's LAX. Or, oh, we call all the humans Nova. Why? Because, the little girl in War for Planet of the Apes is named Nova.
Oh, I didn't know that, so it was completely lost on me.
Yep. And it's just, it relies a little bit too much on that as opposed to trying to be its own thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. It did feel very light, and I think most of the issues were with the story.
Yeah, I also feel that the social and political commentary, which has kind of become a staple of this franchise, was lacking. It didn't feel like it had a lot to say, and that's kind of because in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, the movie condemns Kova for wanting to start an offensive war, even though we understand where his motivations come from. The problem is, because we don't know what Proximus wants, even though the movie ends up condemning him, we don't know what exactly is being condemned in terms of an idea.
Right. Yeah, it's really more the action, and anyone can see that like violence is bad.
Yeah. And it really feels like they were holding back, when in the past they have not held back. Again, War has a scene where the apes are being forced to do slave labor while the national anthem plays in the background.
Yep, that was one of the scenes Rohan showed me in my office. I feel like the opportunity was there. Because when in the first scenes, when we see that there's this peaceful tribe and they're being attacked by a tribe that's clearly extremist, and they say that it's for Caesar, and when we meet the orangutan, he talks about how Caesar has been misrepresented and the teachings of Caesar have been misunderstood. It was great. The setup was there to talk about like religious extremism and stuff like that.
But we don't know how Proximus twisted those
Caesar's
teachings.
words. Yeah.
They say for Caesar a lot.
Yeah.
But we don't know, what is he teaching his tribe? What is the content that he's giving them that is brainwashing them?
Favorite scenes?
Oh, yes. I think probably the scene at the bridge.
Okay.
I feel like that's probably what you were going to go for. But
I had a backup.
Okay,
so.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, as we said, I think one of the big redeeming factors of this movie is the action, and I think that was far and away the best action scene of the movie. There was a lot of tension, but it was also choreographed very
Interesting.
well.
I disagree. I thought that the best action in the movie was in the first, like in the inciting, well, maybe turn to act two of the film where the tribe is attacked,
Mm-hmm.
and
That was a pretty good one.
it
Yeah.
happens up in the in the aviary basically.
Oh yeah, that was a great one
It was a
also.
great scene. Um, that being said, I think my favorite was when the apes go um, into the vault and they find a children's book which has images of a zoo, and
Oh
these
yeah.
apes are seeing for the first time how humans used to treat their ancestors, and it's like this. It's a really powerful moment of like these apes seeing that their relationship with humans could end very badly. Um, Another beautiful moment that they just chose not to explore unless it was
Yep.
meant as setup for another movie. Is another movie coming out?
Yes.
Okay, so that's probably it. So they're probably like planting
Yeah.
for the next movie. But I don't know. I was kind of sad that they didn't explore that further.
I agree. All right, so time for a rating, and as a reminder, or if you're new, we do ratings on a script coverage scale, which is pass, consider, recommend. Basically, pass. We don't like the movie. Consider. We think it's like decent, but not necessarily great. And recommend, where we actually think this
Mhm.
movie is this movie's great. What would you give Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes?
I would say consider if you like action, um, and if you've been following the franchise, then and if you intend on continuing to follow the franchise, then definitely consider. It did run pretty long,
Yeah,
and I felt it in the theater.
yeah,
So just something to know before you go in.
yeah. I would give it a consider as well. I think I was very disappointed with this movie, but ultimately, it is some of the action is fun. The VFX are great, and at the very least, it tries to tell an interesting story. I think
Mm-hmm.
it stumbles
Mm-hmm.
quite a bit, but I admire the effort as opposed to a lot of movies where I feel don't really try to do anything and just give you kind of CGI nonsense.
Yeah, like almost like a cookie. For a movie that came out of a big franchise like this. It's not as cookie cutter as it's like as the others that we see around.
Yep.
Also, shout out to the marketing team.
Oh yeah.
They did a fantastic job like throughout the campaign. It was um I saw those videos of like I think it was up in the Bay Area where people were just in monkey costumes riding horses.
Yep.
Um I'm
Yeah,
a
they did
little
that in New
sad I
York
didn't
as
come
well.
across any. Sorry, you were saying?
I said they did that in New York as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't do it down here. I would have loved to see something like that. But no, it was great job. It was definitely on my radar, and I don't even follow the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did clearly worked.
Yeah.
Um,
And what else have you been watching?
oh,
Oh wait, sorry. Recommendations first.
yeah.
Uh, so so one of the things we like to do is also recommend movies based off of the movie that we just covered.
Hmm.
So what would you recommend this week?
I'm gonna say the Jurassic Park franchise. Feels far-fetched, I know, but I feel like a lot of the underlying themes are similar. It is also about humans meddling with nature and the repercussions of that. The Jurassic Park series, at least the first three, are some of my favorite movies of all times. So if this is the kind of if like action,
You like 3 also?
I did. Did you
Okay.
not?
I haven't seen 3, but
Oh.
you're the first person I've heard say
No,
you
I
liked
really
it.
liked it. I liked all of them except for the last one that came out because I slept through that one.
Yeah.
So make of that what you will. But yeah, if you like action films, especially humans versus animal kind of stuff, Jurassic Park.
Yeah. So I'm gonna recommend Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War for the Planet of the Apes. I know it's kind of like, well, you're
Surprise,
recommending.
surprise.
Yeah. I know it's weird to recommend something that's in the exact same franchise, but given that they are 10 and 7 years old, there's a very good chance that people uh, who are watching Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, these titles are very wordy. Uh, it's a very good chance that if you're that someone may be watching Kingdom as their very first Apes movie. So yeah, I think those two are just spectacular movies in the same franchise.
I can confirm I will be watching them. I feel like I don't have the choice to not anymore. That being said, what else have you been watching?
I've been watching Hacks. Season 3 just came out on HBO. I love comedies about people who are not very likable.
Yeah, I was just gonna say obnoxious.
Yeah. I don't know why, they're just so much fun. They're not straight up terrible like the characters in Always Sunny. But yeah, no, Hacks is one of my favorite comedies of the past few years.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good stuff about it. I had started it for a class a couple of years ago. It was great, so if you guys want to check that out, I think it's on HBO.
Yep.
This week I watched a movie called Adipurush, which is a pretty old, I think it's a couple of years old. It's a retelling of the Ramayana. I just feel like if I had to watch it and sit through it, so should most other people.
It's only a year old.
Oh wow, it feels like way longer. Also, it was not a great movie. I feel like I brought it up just to complain about it. It was just, again, so much opportunity to retell a great story, but it just felt lazy. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Pages to Pixels podcast. I'm Keerthana.
I'm Rohan.
And hopefully we will see you next week for a new episode.
Yeah, thank you.